I'd like to speak on a topic that is near and dear to me today, and that is the issue of slavery and the New Testament contextual understanding of slavery. The reason this topic is near and dear to me is simply because my roots are from West Africa, and I know for a fact that some of my ancestors were from the Ashanti tribe, which was one of the tribes forced into slavery in the 17 and 1800s. The reality is slavery has existed in some form or fashion throughout the whole of recorded human history. Many Christians were masters or slave owners and used the Bible to support and endorse this institution. As a result, we have seen the Bible take much flack as a result of New World slavery. One example would be the African slave trade of the 17 and 1800s. During this time, West Africans were beaten, raped, and taken against their will and forced into enslavement. Many Europeans at that time saw this heinous act as the will of God, using the Bible to support their endeavors. However, slavery during that time looked a lot different than it looked in the days of the Bible. And as a result, the authors of the New Testament would be very disgusted and appalled by the way their words have been quoted and used by many to endorse and support New World views on slavery. One of the main passages used from the New Testament is Ephesians 6, verses 5 through 9. Ephesians 6, 5 through 9 says, "Bondservant, obey your earthly masters with a fear and trembling, with a sincere heart as you would Christ, not by the way of eye service as people pleasers, but as bondservants of Christ, doing the will of God from the heart, rendering service with a good will as the Lord and not to man, knowing that whatever good anyone does, this he will receive back from the Lord, whether he is a bondservant or is free." Verse 9 says, "Masters, do the same to them, and stop your threatening, knowing that he who is both their master and yours is in heaven, and that there is no partiality with him." I think it's important for us to understand that the word bondservant, when used in the Old Testament and even in the New Testament, was really referring to what we know as indentured servanthood. This is a very different type of institution than what has been seen in the modern or New World definition of slavery. Biblical servanthood was a paid position bonded by mutual contract or agreement between the two parties for a period of time of 3 to 10 years in order to pay back a debt or loan, where modern day slavery is not a paid position at all. In many cases, the slave is considered the property of their master. The slave was captured and kept against his or her will, and in most cases was bonded to their master for life. Biblical servanthood was a respectable position, and in many cases the master and his slave had a mutual respect for each other. It was frowned upon for slaves to be beaten or harmed in any way while under the care of their master. In fact, Exodus chapter 21 verses 26 through 27 says, "If or when a man strikes the eye of his slave, male or female, and destroys it, he shall let the slave go free because of his eye." It also says, "If he knocks out the tooth of his slave, male or female, he shall let the slave go free because of his tooth." Maybe if these passages had been viewed with proper biblical context, the church could have taken a stronger stand on much of the inhumane, regressive, and depredating acts that many of our ancestors had to endure. I think it's also important to mention that slavery is not a thing of the past. In fact, slavery today, 2012, is greater than it's ever been. Over 20 million people today are being enslaved against their own will.